Hello, hello. One, two, three.
An elastic band fixed at one point. If hard work actually led to lasting success, the donkey would own the entire farm. You see, most individuals will remain significant. Significantly below their potential their entire lives because they keep trying to do more and work harder whilst holding on to an identity of the past. You see, we cannot create permanent change whilst trying to take action and fundamentally staying the same person, because external reality, look around, it's simply a reflection of an internal cause. We can see this if we think about an elastic band fixed at one point. We can call this point A, and point A represents our identity, who we fundamentally believe that we are. The more action we take, the further we stretch this elastic band. And so the harder you work, the more resistance you encounter, because the more the elastic band stretches, the harder it is to go on. This creates an environment of inevitable collapse. This is why people self-sabotage, they procrastinate. It's why your progress oscillates up and down like a transverse wave, like a wave in the ocean. of progress and momentum. A couple of weeks you're locked in for a couple of weeks, and then the next couple of weeks you're procrastinating, you're self-sabotaging. Why does this happen? Because action doesn't happen in isolation. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how change works to suggest that you can change with action alone. Action is both a cause and an effect. It doesn't happen in isolation. Action is the only way we can cause change in external reality. Our outcomes are the cumulative addition of the actions that we've taken. There's no question about that. But action is also an effect of an upstream cause. There are things that determine the actions that we do or don't take. So just taking action alone is foolish. And finding the source of this river of change is incredibly important, because that's where we can find the source code. The source code is the primary instructions that govern the mind. They determine the actions you do or don't take, and therefore the outcomes you get. If we want to create permanent change, we must change the source code. This is why taking action without changing this source code will lead to inevitable collapse. It leads to that elastic band snapping back, because you aren't actually changing the primary instructions of the mind. Now, a lot of people have theories about what the source code of the mind actually is. A lot of it steps into pseudoscience and mysticism and the bad parts of spiritualism, to be honest. I'll go through a couple examples to give you a flavor. A lot of people talk about how your thoughts directly control your outcomes in some direct manner, but they never really explain any observable mechanism by which this happens, unless if they're talking about some quantum woo or whatever it is. The point is, thoughts do play a role, but they're not the source code, they're the product of it. Similar with emotions. Emotions are not the source code. They're not directly controlling your reality like some people would like to suggest. They're the product of the source code. Similar with stuff like dopamine. A lot of people say, well, you need to program your dopamine to control your life. But again, dopamine is the currency of reward in the brain, put simply. And again, that is the product of the actual source code. The observable source of the source code, according to psychology and neuroscience, stuff like people who actually study the mind and the brain, is very much unanimously determined to be the beliefs that you hold about yourself. It is belief that is the source code. Belief refers to the subjective value judgments you hold about yourself or your place in the world around you. Now, belief is this umbrella term. It's synonymous. It can be replaced with interpretations, perceptions, biases, opinions, and you get the idea. Belief comes together to form your identity. Your identity is simply the collection of beliefs you hold about yourself. And it is who you believe you are that fundamentally determines what you get in this life. If you're going to take one line away from this video, make it be that, because it is your beliefs that will magnify and maintain themselves. They will project themselves onto external reality. Beliefs that determine the thoughts you think, the emotions that you feel, and fundamentally and most importantly, the actions that you take or the actions that you don't take. Because if you act out of alignment with your beliefs, this creates cognitive dissonance, a level of discomfort. Bringing back to that elastic band analogy, the further you walk away from that identity, the beliefs you hold about yourself, the more discomfort that is created. This is how beliefs continue to project themselves. Now, I'm being very clear here. Beliefs don't have this direct impact. They don't directly control your outcomes. Outcomes are determined through action. But action doesn't happen in isolation. It is your beliefs that determine the actions you take through the thoughts that you think and the emotions that you feel. This is nuanced, but it's fundamentally beliefs which sit at the top of this river of change. And so if you want to create permanent change, you need to change the source code, who you believe you are, because if you don't, you will constantly revert back to that. You will snap back like an elastic band to that identity. How do we change the source code of the mind? How does one actually create?
I think you look really confident.
Change?
Thank you.
What makes
Well, beliefs can change. They are dynamic, but they cannot be flipped on and off like a light switch. lot of people stop there and they just say, well, you've got to change your beliefs. You can't just say, I believe I'm a millionaire. I believe that I am confident, or whatever it is. You can't just instill beliefs on a dime. You can't just do that instantly. Beliefs are subjective value judgments, as I mentioned in the definition before, but they're subjective value judgments based off the experience you have directly or indirectly had. You see, your life, you have a bunch of...
And they want to ask me, how did you do it? I can't tell you how, because you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're going to continue being out, because every day you wake up, like he says, like, get the coffee, make the pancakes, kiss the girl, kiss the kids. You wake up, right to work. Immediately your mind is in action. No one wants to do that. No one. I don't blame them. But don't be mad. When you're laying there in your fucking bed, and you're in the fucking hospital, and you're 70, 80, 90 years old, and you're thinking, man, I feel like I didn't fucking do something. Because you did. You didn't do it. You didn't do shit. You're lazy. You know exactly what to do. Exactly what to do. Because even me, in my state of, I can't read or write, I knew exactly what to do. It just sucks doing it. It sucks to do it. It sucks to wake up every morning of your life and say, God, man, I'm not smart. So guess what I gotta do? I gotta study the same shit that I get one of the highest scores in the nation on. And do it again, do it again, do it again. It's not just there. It's not just there permanently. So yeah, it's all stick. It's all stick. The only carrot you have is like, maybe, because whenever I take these tests that are real hard, in the back of my brain is like, a good chance you're not gonna make it, Goggins. This ain't you, bro. This ain't you. You weren't born like this. This ain't you, the real you, bro. Study all you want to, but the second that fucking computer comes on with 150 questions, this ain't you, man. And somehow, comes back, I passed. Passed again. But that real me back here every fucking time is saying, that ain't you, bro. That ain't you. And I have to outwork that voice. When I'm taking that test, I get to a question, I don't fucking know the answer. I'm like, fuck, man. And then, say, I told you, man. That ain't you. You're 300 pounds, man. You sit at home, you figure out how to do your hair. That's what you do. How to come to school with the reverse baldness when you're 16. That's you. So there is no get out of jail free card. This is why I say stay hard. Because when you weren't given the gifts, the only thing you can do in life is stay hard. And I know people cannot stand me. They can't stand this talk. This is all you can do. There's no magic pill or a magic potion. All you can do is outwork the man that God created, or woman, in you.
I'm Ryan Holiday. This is my bookstore in Bastrop, Texas, and here are some books that will change your life. I read a lot of books this year. That's one of the perks of owning your own bookstore and being a writer. You get to be a professional reader. I read a lot, and these are my absolute favorite books I read this year. I liked this book so much, I bought literally 1,000 copies. This was not the first year I read it. This is the 5th time I read it. This is the book For Our Times. Montaigne, turning away from the dysfunction and chaos and cruelty of his time, retreats to his library and begins to explore something that's all too rare then and now, which is the idea of self-awareness. He who thinks freely for himself honors all freedom on earth. And this was written by Stefan Zweig, if you've read The World of Yesterday, as he himself is fleeing the Nazis. I absolutely loved this book, and I think everyone should read it. This is a book that nobody knew about until this year. Joan Didion, as her daughter was struggling with alcohol addiction, would go to therapy once a week, and then she wrote notes summarizing what she was thinking, what she was dealing with, and then she wrote them basically in a letter to her husband, John. And these were found nicely typed up in a folder near her desk when she died. It got published.
I need to clear up some misconceptions about how to get some gargantuanly, grotesquely gorgeous, yes, that's the word I'm looking for, gorgeous arms. We need beautiful, big, burly biceps to be funneling around the grocery store so the moms go, oh my, look at that young man. I gotta tell that young man about my 18-year-old daughter, of course. You feel me?
Okay, ignoring my supposed midlife crisis, let's talk about training ideology. We're going to talk about biceps. Now, the thing with biceps is, like most muscle groups, I see people just do tremendous amounts of junk volume. Now, I'll be getting to training philosophy in a moment, but what you're going to see quickly in this video is you're probably just doing too much.
Now, I decided to actually teach you stuff because that's kind of important. So, I'm barely in the camera angle I can see. But I want to show performance versus time and basically just the most basic training philosophy ever. Now, let's say I have my baseline. If I were to sit in a chair all week, this is how strong I'd be if I never touched a weight. Now, I could do a dumbbell curls 25 for 8, let's say. Now, let's say I go to the gym tomorrow and I do that. I do my 25 for 8, and I do 25 for 7, I do 25 for 6. My performance will dip down because I broke a bunch of muscle tissue. And then on Tuesday, I'll be weaker, and maybe Wednesday or Thursday, I come back a little bit stronger. This is called supercompensation, and this is where I'm going to be the strongest and where I'm going to want to train next. Otherwise, my performance will actually start to taper until finally I'm back to baseline. Now, what I see as a big issue in a lot of people's programs is they only train a muscle group, let's say like once a week, and they do way too much volume. So this is what they do basically. They go on Monday, they do 25 by 8, 25 by 7, 25 by 6. Then they say, I'm gonna do hammer curls also and superset them, and then I'm also gonna do chin-ups. And they're a brand new beginner or they haven't made that much gains, and so they basically go like this. And then, yeah, they kind of supercompensate around the same amount. And then they're only gonna train once a week because they can't do that every third day. So all of this volume, let's say, all of this extra stuff, they did all those extra exercises, junk volume, completely waste, didn't add to their hypertrophy at all. Not to mention, since they're only training once a week, they literally, by the time they get back, have made no gains. Their body reset. So it's basically a waste of time. The point is, you want to instead do less volume. You get to the supercompensation initially, you want to train again, and then you'll come up a little bit higher, and you just keep on riding this wave where you train the muscle group every few days with just enough volume to make gains. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do.
So if you tell me one session you're doing like 6+ straight sets for direct bicep and tricep exercise, most likely your intensity doesn't exist. You're probably doing something like this. Because realistically, unless you've been training like 10 years, 4 to 5 sets should leave you at nothing. To demonstrate this, I decided to show a bicep exercise here taken to technical failure. Because I think many people don't actually have a very good frame of reference for what failure looks like. Especially technical failure. They think you have to do drop sets and other things, but technical failure is actually relatively difficult, and I think it's not achieved on most people's sets, which is why they can do like 6 to 8 sets, where realistically, if you see the set, imagine trying to do another 5 sets in matching this level of intensity that's about, well, it's just a technical failure. Check this out. Just watch the set. Okay, I'm in a van, but I'm going to finish off with this tricep. So, same thing with the triceps. I think the intensity is misunderstood, and exercise selection is generally terrible. So you can see here I chose a French press because it's a long head exercise. I think a lot of people base their tricep selection based off how it feels or like relative sense of burn, which is a horrible metric. Like most people when they do this, they do not feel it in their triceps that well because they're only getting loading mainly in a stretched position. So I heavily recommend switching to these types of exercises, cutting out all your just rope tricep pushdowns, and you'll see. So yeah, check this out. I mean, it looks like I'm at failure, but I just keep going one after another. Isn't that just wild? I'm going to cut this short. Well, dang, it just keeps going. It's wonderful, isn't it? Wow, what a treat for me to eat. Well, anyway, guys, that's pretty much the end of the video. This is the final thing I have for you. So hopefully you can.
Now, you probably clicked on this video and thought to yourself, why in the world would anybody want to listen to a 22-year-old loser? And I don't really have a good answer to that. I don't. But there are a few things that I thought I'd want to share and put out there on the internet, observations of mine about life that I feel like, in my experience, has been true. And the first one, and by far and away the most important one, if you take nothing else from this video, please let it be this. Your life is built based off your beliefs and identity. Everything that you think turns into fruition, turns into reality. You have to operate from conviction in life. And you can't trick your brain. If you don't believe something, your subconscious knows that you don't believe it, and it won't turn into reality. What I've realized is that confidence comes after action, not before. So you really do have to go out there and just try things, regardless of how you feel. Because the truth is, there will never be a perfect time. If the harvester waits for the perfect season to grow crops, it will never harvest, right? There's never going to be a perfect time. It's like this, like when you had your first kiss, you were like super, super freaking nervous. And although obviously everyone, like you wanted to do it, you were so nervous that in the moment you were like, it would just be easier if I just didn't, right? But you had to take the leap of faith anyways. You bit the bullet and you did it. And then in the end, it ended up being amazing. Or maybe it didn't end up being amazing, but it was a learning experience. And then in the future, it was better, right? And that's the same thing with life. But everything stems from your identity. You're the captain of your ship and the master of your fate. Life doesn't happen to you. It comes from you. I think that was a quote that I heard from Timothy Chalamet, and I love it. It's so true. There's a quote that I've said over and over again on many of my videos where I say life regresses to the mean, and the mean is your identity, who you truly believe you are. And it's very important to understand that this affects parts of your life that you don't even comprehend, that you're not even aware of. Other people can sense how legitimate you are, like how much you believe in yourself. It's really hard to lie to someone about your conviction, like what you believe in. People can track it. They could track the BS. And so, most importantly, you need to be authentic to who you are. And although, like my situation, my life I haven't seen a lot of success or whatnot, I would say in the past, like 5 to 6 months, I've started to realize and build my identity to where I feel more confident and I'm actually building something. I've actually been trying something for the past few months now. And the first time I ever actually bet on myself, the start of it, I had no idea what I was doing. And then I started to get a few results and then I convinced myself, and then it changed my subconscious to where I actually believed. I had the belief that, hey, I can start doing this. And I started doing it and it started to work for me. And this can be true in any sector of your life, whether it's, pursuing your career, pursuing a significant other, in general, just trying to improve who you are and what you're capable of. Everything just stems back to belief. I've said this before, but athletes, I don't think that there's that much of a gap in skill when you get to the top percent. But the actual gap, why some perform much better than others, is that they almost operate on autopilot. Like they just believe that something's possible, and so they're able to do it. Right? It's not like Messi is, what is he, 5'6"? I don't think 5'6", 5'8", somewhere in there. And he is like so much better than everyone else. Significantly better than everyone else. And like you would just watch him on the pitch and you'd be like, oh my gosh, like how does he do it? It's not like this dude has stronger legs. It's not like his brain operates faster than everyone else. Right? He just like believes he can do it, and subconsciously that's operating his entire functionality. And then that turns into fruition on the pitch. That's why he's so good at everything that he does. And I've realized this, if you pay attention to people, the people that I would always bet on to be successful aren't the smartest ones. They're not the best looking ones. They're not the best speakers. They're the ones that just don't second guess themselves. They just do. And those are the ones that are rewarded. And oftentimes that correlates to other things. Like oftentimes that does make them a better speaker. Oftentimes that does make them better looking, which I know sounds weird, but like they're not stressed out. And so it kind of reflects on their physical appearance. Like it's just weird how the world works. When one thing starts going your way, it seems like everything starts going your way. When one thing starts going bad, it seems like everything's falling apart, right? And that's just something that I've learned. Once again, if you take nothing else from this video, please let it be that. You need to establish your identity and figure out who you are. You need to actually try things in life to figure out your identity, because everything's theory until you get tested. Once you're tested, you realize, okay, this is actually where I am, and now I figure out my pain points and how I can improve. If you're just sitting at home doing nothing, then you're never going to figure that out. So figure out your identity, believe in yourself and what you're doing, and I guarantee you, you cannot lose. You will not lose. Another big piece of advice, kind of shifting gears here. I think 95% of jobs are bullshit, and they can be done in a fraction of the time. This is just what I've realized. I am not in the corporate world yet. I'm about to graduate college, but and I'm hoping that my business that I've just started here is gonna do well enough to where I don't. And I'm hoping that my business that I've just started here is gonna do well enough to where I don't have to go to a 9 to 5. But you know, my entire family, they all do a 9 to 5, and they work from home. And obviously, I live with my folks and my siblings, and you know, everybody's just sitting at their desk, you know, typing away. They're going to these meetings and they're like, it's a bunch of fake people. Everyone's fake. Everyone has to use corporate language. Everyone has to be respectful of whatever other people have going on, even if it's, you know, dangerous or bad for them. It's exhausting to be witness to. And that's why I'm like I'm so terrified of like going into that reality. That's why I'm trying to escape it by all means. But yeah, 95% of jobs are bullshit. If you're familiar with Parkinson's law, it basically states that things will be achieved, tasks will be completed in the allotted amount of time that you give it. So like your brain, if you're like, oh, this is going to take a week to complete, it normally does take a week to complete because that is the deadline that you're giving yourself. So your brain is operating in a state where you will complete things to only be finished on that time, on that deadline. And the reality is you could probably finish things in a fraction of the time that it takes you to actually do them. And, you know, it's like you're telling me that like going to 3 meetings, filling out 2 spreadsheets, responding to a few emails takes 8 hours. I don't think so. That could be done in 3, you know? So specifically like corporate America, yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is bullshit. Everyone's scamming. And along the lines of that, I want to say that you're not your job, man. You're not, you know, how much money you have in the bank. You're not the contents of your wallet. You're not your fucking khakis, that quote from Fight Club. Like, people are putting their identity in literally just a means of production at the end of the day. I mean, that's what it is when you live in a capitalist society. And I made that one video where I said only a slave quantifies its existence through productivity, and that's so true. It's like, bro, I'm telling you, everyone tries to make like their identity and their status about like what they're accomplishing in their career, and then they're just like miserable because they work jobs they don't like just because they want to make a few extra dollars or have the title of banker or whatever it is, right? That stuff doesn't matter, bro. Like, live your life. I would say who you are is defined by your plan, where you're going. It's not who you've been in the past. It's not even where you currently are, bro. It's the trajectory of where you're headed. It's your ideas, your beliefs, like what you believe in. That's who I think someone truly is. That's what actually matters. You know, it's that quote from Batman by the character Bane. He's like, who you are doesn't matter. What matters is your plan. That's a terrible freaking imitation of him, but don't mind that. But yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. What matters is your plan. So where are you going? What are you doing? And society is always, and your peers, they're always going to try to, you know, judge you based off of, you know, materialistic standards. But that's all bullshit. It's fugazi, as they say. My next piece of advice is that the world is built by weirdos who don't fit in. If you study history, all the people that have made really great inventions, the Leonardo da Vinci's of the world, the Nikola Teslas of the world, the Elon Musk of the world, people that have, achieved just remarkable feats, whether for good or bad, they all were weirdos. They didn't fit in. Because by definition, if you want to be exceptional, you have to be the exception. You cannot fit in. And so don't be ashamed if you don't fit in. As a matter of fact, that should be what you're aiming for. You know, when you like grow up and stuff, you're always trying to fit in with your peers in school and stuff. And that's all good and fine when you're young. But like when you're older, it's like, do you just want to, you know, disappear into a giant pile of mediocrity? You're just going to jump in the sea of mediocre people that get forgotten? You know, no. How are you watching this video right now? Are you watching it on a phone? Or are you watching it on a computer? How was that designed? It was designed by a weirdo that people didn't give a shit about, that they had to go out of their way. They were trying to do something that everyone thought was impossible. And this is true with everything. All forms of technology. You know, Harrison Ford with the car and just like all these various things, like these people were weirdos. And so because of that, I admire weirdos, and I don't think you should ever be ashamed if you are a weirdo. You should actually aspire to be one of them. There was a tweet that I read once. I'm going to paraphrase it here, but it's phenomenal. This lady said, you know, it's funny that the people that are always complaining and judging others do so by the means of living an entire life that's dictated by those weirdos that they point their fingers at, right? Like, you live in a house that has air conditioning, it has plumbing, it has, you know, various different forms of technology, and all of that stuff was brought to fruition by somebody who was most likely outcasted. And so you have to learn to respect it. And yeah, don't give a shit so much about, you know, what all these people are saying or doing. Like, really just focus on you, and it's gonna pay off tenfold. I mean, I spend most of my day down here, and I just pretty much work, you know. I work, try to record videos, get that out. I got to do my regular job. It's remote. I have school, and then I'm trying to build a business, and I don't hang out with friends literally ever. So I moved out of my hometown this past summer, and then even before that, I was living in an apartment with some other people. So I wasn't even sucks, but bro, it's like there's something, it's like I'm actually building something, I'm actually doing something, and I don't get judged by anyone. It's kind of awesome. So yeah, I wish I could say I'm moving in silence, but a lot of what I do is on social media. So yeah, that ain't true for me. But depending on what you're doing, I think moving in silence is good, because you know, it doesn't it just means that you're not going to be impacted by the opinions of others, which is, you know, almost impossible to avoid the second things go out there. Like, you think you don't care what other people think, but you low-key do. So that's my advice on that. And my next thing I want to say is that this is a quote that I heard on a Chris Williamson podcast. He said, it's idiots all the way up. The people that are above you in life, they are no better than you. I promise you. I promise you. They are not like significantly more intelligent, more talented, whatever. Like, don't get me wrong, some people are more intelligent, some people are more talented, but you know, you'll start to realize that people aren't really any different than you. They're just normal people. Recently, I had a huge creator, one of the biggest in the self-improvement space, if not the biggest. And I'm not gonna out him, but you know, he slid into my DMs and he gave me a follow and was like talking to me, and really normal guy. Like, I was asking him for business advice. I was really normal guy, and I'm not calling him an idiot. I'm just saying, when I say idiot, it's like, it's just people that are no better than you. And this guy, he's only been doing it for, I think, like two and a half years now. And you know, I was just talking to him, and such a normal guy. It was like refreshing. I was like, oh my gosh, like, maybe I can, you know, make a difference. Maybe I can, you know, impact a lot of people like this guy did, because he's so normal. Like, I don't know. It's just, it seems like a far-fetched dream when you're younger to believe that you could really reach the top. It's exist, because it almost seems like these people are almost gods that reach the top echelon, but it really is not true. I promise you. It really is idiots all the way up. I recently watched the movie Amadeus. phenomenal movie if you haven't watched it. And I'm not a big movie watcher, so when I do watch anything, I make sure it's good. And at the end of it, there was Salieri, who the movie was about, him and Mozart. He basically explains that like mediocrity is the greatest tragedy. There is nothing more scary than mediocrity. And I don't know if I fully agree with that. I don't know if it's the greatest tragedy, but it certainly is a tragedy. And it's like, I'm horrified of being mediocre. But the reason that I bring this up is don't listen to the crowd, because the crowd is the average, right? It is mediocrity, is the crowd. So you can't listen to conventional wisdom, because conventional wisdom is just that, it's conventional. And you want to do something unconventional. So you can't just stick to that wisdom. You have to, at some point, take a risk. Right? If you want to be great, at some point, risk has to be taken. The greatest risk that I've realized is taking no risk at all. If you just do what these people continuously are telling you to do, go to school, get an internship, land a job, try to work your way up the corporate ladder, like all those people end up depressed and unfulfilled. So why would you try to do the same thing? No. You got to take a risk at some point, guys. But yeah, mediocrity is a tragedy. And I think it's a tragedy because everybody has the potential to be exceptional, but people aren't taking that because they've been conditioned to just live average lives and be controlled, right? You need to believe in yourself, back to the first thing that I said, and that will then lead to action being taken, and the action is where your dreams lie, because you don't get anything unless you take action. Every time you take... There's a quote by James Clear, the author of the book Atomic Habits, where he says, every action you take is a vote for who you wish to be in the future. I love that quote. It's so true. You have to put opportunities out there in the universe, and then just hope that the universe bites. And 99% of them are going to miss, but eventually something's going to hit, and it's going to be amazing. Once it hits, it's amazing. Truly. But yeah, if you paid attention and if you look around, I've realized that there's a moral decline going on. If everyone likes you and you're doing something that everyone applauds, you don't stand for anything. It's not do anything of good merit. You're gonna get haters. Okay? That's what I've realized. My videos, more or less, are trying to help people or just expose the truth about society, or like, it's never to make anyone feel bad, ever. None of the videos I've ever made, whether it's on short form content or it's long form like YouTube, it's not to make anyone feel bad, ever. And yet I'll constantly get people that are just like completely shitting on me, being like, this guy's an idiot, this guy thinks he's the smartest guy in the world, which is crazy, by the way. I don't think I'm smarter than even the average person. I've said that in many videos. I don't. But anytime you speak with conviction or, have the balls to try something, people are going to shit on you. So, yeah, if you're trying to do something good, people are going to hate on you. And if you're not doing anything, then people are going to be indifferent about you. They're not going to care. And you're not really taking a stand for anything if you are doing something and everyone's supporting you. You're not really taking a stand on anything here. Another great piece of advice that I'm not in my 30s yet, but I heard from someone, is that the 30s is when you see the results of the repeated actions, right? Like in your 20s, you can have someone that's working really, really hard, and then someone who's going to the bars and is in a frat and, is constantly going out and partying and stuff. And, while you're in your 20s, it's going to be hard to tell the difference between these two people. If anything, it looks like the guy that's going out has a better life. But eventually in your 30s, that's when things catch up and you start to see, okay, this guy actually put his head down and worked, and I'm only 22 saying this, but it makes a lot of sense. I can already sort of see it. I have a bunch of cousins who are now in their early 30s, and, I've sort of seen that, like some of them that like really put their heads down and worked are doing very well for themselves. And then the other ones that kind of just partied, they just, they fell into the sea of mediocrity. And it is a tragedy. Another thing that I've realized is you need to start doing things in spite of how you feel, okay? If you don't feel up to it, you need to still put your head down and work and hold yourself to a standard, because the second that you give yourself any sort of lenience, your brain's going to take full advantage of that, and you're not going to be making anything great. You're not going to be doing anything substantial. The last point that I want to make before I close off this video is that I've realized that, socializing isn't as important as they make it out to be when you're young. And when I say young, I mean in your late teens, early 20s, because if you're trying to achieve something great, you need to sacrifice a social life. For me, I didn't have to sacrifice it. I just didn't freaking have it, you know? Like, especially since I moved down to my hometown, just, you know, I have friends and they just don't live near me. So I got lucky on that front. But yeah, you need to sacrifice if you want something. There's a scene from a TV show where a guy says, you want to know the best advice I learned at Harvard? In order to get something, you have to sacrifice. The greater the sacrifice, the greater the gain. Really, really straightforward, blunt advice, and it's phenomenal. It's true. You need to sacrifice. Socializing, if you want to be great, you just can't get there. Alex Corp, the CEO and founder of Palantir, billionaire, you know, not the biggest, like he's a little bit questionable in terms of his character, but from a achievement standpoint, I mean, this guy's really on top of things. You can just tell that he sacrificed a lot. He talks about it. He said, if I was going out in my 20s and had a friend group, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And he's the type of guy that's going to have a large impact on the world, whether for good or bad, we don't know, but it's true. Like you need to learn that socializing is not everything. You know, I'm constantly told, my parents, like a couple of weeks ago, were like concerned. They're like, Jet, you are not doing, it's like unhealthy how you just never go out, you never do anything, you just like sit in the basement all day and you just work. And I'm like, yeah, because long term I hope to reap the fruits of my labor, you know? And maybe that's not your forte. You don't have to. If you want to be mediocre, like, I know it sounds like I was really harsh and judgmental on that, but the truth is, you do your own life, you know? It's not for me, but yeah, you can do that. And if you want to socialize, if you want to do these things, go ahead. But I think a lot of what I want to talk about on this channel is like the desire to be great and like actually achieve something. You have to understand that you can't have everything. You can't. There has to be a sacrifice made. And that's the beauty of life, is that you get to choose that sacrifice. Anyways, once again, take every single thing I just said as a grain of salt, because I am a 22-year-old loser who lives in his parents' basement, right? But thank you guys for watching.
Most people don't realize they're falling behind until it's too late. You turn 30 and suddenly you're out of shape, you're stuck in a job you hate, in debt, lonely, and wondering what the hell happened. But it doesn't have to be this way. In this video, I'm breaking down the 12 things you must do before turning 30 in order to get ahead and build a life you don't want to escape from, where you're healthy, doing well financially, socially, and more. If you're in your 20s and you feel like time's slipping away, this is your wake-up call. Your 20s are not a waiting room. They're your training ground for the rest of your life, and you need to act like it. Before getting into the actual list, I want to start with a quick call for urgency. Like, obviously, with all these things we're going to talk about, you can always come back and play catch up and get on top of it in your 30s or your 40s. Like, plenty of people figure it out later in life. But it's just so much easier to get on top of all these things in your 20s with virtually everything: money, health, careers, relationships. If you start earlier, it just gives you more time to win. Compound interest isn't just for money. Let's get right into it. The first thing on this list that you need to do, because if you don't do this, all other things might fall apart, and this is one of the easiest things to skip, is build a fitness habit. Not just for looks, but for discipline and health. A healthy body becomes your foundation for everything else. As you enter your 30s, you want to have your weight under control, you want to have good strength and more. Otherwise, you'll just be fighting an uphill battle for the rest of your life. According to a study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, people who were in good cardiovascular health in their 20s were 5x more likely to stay healthy in their 50s and beyond compared to those with poor habits early on. So the metaphor here is, think of your body like compound interest. The early investment in it pays off. You get healthy once and you stay healthy forever. If you wait, the uphill climb is brutal. You don't need to be jacked. You just need a little bit of discipline. Go to the gym or go on a run at least 3 to 4 times a week. I totally neglected my fitness routine many times in my late teens, early 20s, especially in college, and even now when I'm traveling, it can be hard. But it makes such a big difference in not only my physical health, but my mental health when I'm committed to an exercise routine. Sometimes a run can just clear my brain and helps me return to work with a fresh mind. To maintain good cardio health, I aim to run at least 1 half marathon per year, or at least a few 10Ks, and then I maintain a solid bench press, and I always try to be able to do pull-ups. So find something that works for you and don't neglect it. The next thing you should really do in your 20s is get ahead in your investing journey. So here's a few money goals that you should have done by the time you've turned 30. Number 1, automated investing. So have some sort of consistent investing setup so that every time you get paid, you get a little bit of money deposited into your investment accounts every month. Number 2 is, it's ideal to have at least 1x of your salary, ideally more, saved by the time you hit 30. You should also be taking advantage of tax-advantaged accounts like 401ks, Roth IRAs, in order to keep more of your money wherever possible. You also should really know where your money goes and calculate your budget. How much does it cost to keep you alive? What's your cost of living? That pretty much is the basis for everything else. And finally, you should have paid off most debt by the time you turn 30, maybe with the exception of a house. Obviously, paying off a whole house in your 20s is asking a lot. But if you've accomplished all of these, or at least most of them, you're in great shape to have financial freedom later in your life. If you don't, you might get into the job trap, where where you have too many loans and bad credit, and it's just way harder to escape out of that. So learn budgeting, learn investing, say no to lifestyle creep, because one good financial decision or one good couple of years can buy financial freedom forever. I knocked out a lot of these items and couldn't be happier that I took money seriously in my 20s, because it gives me so much peace of mind and so many options of what I can do with my life. So it's just, I'm so happy I did this. It's literally going to help me for the rest of my life. The third thing that you should do before 30 is develop valuable and employable skills. By the time you turn 30, it's ideal to have mastered at least one high value skill that you'll have for years and decades to come. Hopefully by now you've spent at least 5 to 10 years of doing something, some career. Some of you may have traction in your career by now. Maybe you even jumped around between careers, and that's fine too, as long as you were learning and evolving as time went on. A lot of these skills I learned through experiences. Some of these are kind of independent, or some are learned through interacting and working with people. But I'm going to leave some skills on the screen that you should be looking into both for the digital age and just other more general skills as well. Always focus on learning in your 20s. And when you're not learning skills, try to learn from successful people. Study what they do, either through reading about them or talk to people you know who've done something you'd be interested in. You always got to be curious about how you can change your life. This next one, and this is one that I picked up much later in my 20s, but I wish I started sooner, is start a side hustle. It has practical reasons, because having one source of income is risky nowadays with all the layoffs, but also the learning side of it. A YouTube channel, business, blog, or whatever you're starting, learn to take that shot and learn from the mistakes. It'll teach you marketing, sales, product, risk better than any school degree, if you ask me. And if it all works out, there's so much opportunity here. My life has basically become a series of many side hustles all combined into one. It can be extra money, it could turn into your career, help you meet people, and more. So I highly recommend starting a side hustle in your 20s. Number 5 on this list is you need to seek out discomfort. Do something hard on purpose. It could be finally moving out, it could be trying a new skill or a hobby, or going on a solo trip to another country. It teaches you self-reliance, inner strength, and how to be your own best company. You need to learn how to be alone. You could also do more radical things. You could completely move to a new city. You could quit your job and take a leap and start a business. Your 20s should be for risk, not safety. It's probably the easiest time in your life that you can get away with big risks. I was used to playing life pretty safe in my early 20s, and then the last 2 years or so, I really chased discomfort, and it's kind of made me into a different person. I've done plenty of travel, living elsewhere. I've started new adventures. I left my job. I mean, I really do have stories and experiences now for the rest of my life because of this. Your 20s are for figuring out your identity and trying things out, and you can't find it by staying in your comfort zone. So if you always choose the safe path, you're going to fall behind. The next item, this is an important one, is get used to saying no to things. Early in my 20s, I kind of just went along with things passively just because it was normal to do that, or because my friends really wanted to, even if I didn't. Later on, I had enough. I was getting burnt out, so now if something didn't suit me or if I wasn't interested, I just started saying no, and it changed my life. This can have many different forms. It could be a small thing like saying no to more invites or destructive habits. Like if I go to something now, it's because I truly want to be there, not because I have to be there. Or this could be bigger things like cutting out a toxic relationship or friendship, or even a family member who's really not good for you. Set the standard now for how you expect to be treated. This could be negotiating with your boss at work, or forcing them to recognize your value, saying no to their salary offer, even leaving your job or just switching out of a toxic situation entirely. You're going to learn your worth by saying no, and you'll see that life goes on and it builds courage. You're going to start saying no to more and more things that don't help you. And by doing this, you also figure out your core values and what you want to do with life. So say no to things, know what actually matters to you, and you'll say no to more noise, and then you'll start learning how to say yes to the right things. The next thing you need to do is get comfortable failing and get comfortable in rejection, because it's going to give you tough skin, it's going to weaken your ego and make you less afraid, and you're going to learn from each one. This is why sales guys develop such good personal skills. They're just used to being rejected. I remember at my old job, there used to be a conference for the sales guys that I would weasel my way into sometimes, and despite many of the guys there not being attractive or tall, lots of the sales guys had the hottest wives. And in my mind, it's because they're truly not afraid of rejection. They probably went through so many rejections to get to that point. And money, I'm sure, helps too. But getting comfortable with this will help you everywhere in life. Take on that one big thing or project that you really want to work, but you know it might fail, and tell people you're doing it. Post the video, pitch that client, and risk the total embarrassment. Even if it fails, which for many things is inevitable, you'll become fearless and you'll learn from these failures. And each one's a big lesson to take to the next at-bat. That's why I'm posting my income and my journey to hold myself accountable and not care about failures. My business failure in college taught me a lot about how to run social media, track money better, and more. And that contributes to my successes now. So go out there and fail, kill your ego, but gain the toughness. The next one is really important for winning your day-to-day, and that's to build a discipline system. Let's be honest, motivation comes and goes, but systems and discipline stays. So create routines that carry you when you don't feel like showing up. Like good habits are best to form when young and harder to break when you get older. In your 20s, you need to stop relying on inspiration or watching motivational YouTube videos to go get things done, because some days you're just going to be tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. And the only thing that saves you is the system you built when you had the energy. And the world now is just noisier than ever. Like if you don't build structure, you're going to drown in distraction. You're going to get home and scroll away on social media wondering where your life went. You got to build habits like a morning routine, for example, one that grounds you. For me, it's a coffee, it's going for a walk right around lunch, and then maybe a workout in the afternoon to boost my energy again. You need to create a digital environment that helps you focus. Like for me, I try to only have tabs open that I know I need for the current task at hand. I also try to build friction around bad habits, like putting the phone down before bed and not scrolling in the morning when I wake up. You got to try things like that. Discipline is just freedom in disguise. In your 30s, you're either going to prove that or punish the lack of it. The next one is easy to neglect, but is crucial to happiness and success. Life is really about the people you experience it with. Don't let friendships go. Reach out to people. Know how to be a good friend. Be the guy that makes plans and gets things started. For me, I like to throw a party a year, and when I come home, I like to go out and see everyone that I haven't seen in a while. In your 20s, you're probably going to lose and move on from many people, and that's okay, but make sure you're not losing good people for your life either. I mean, even a small text goes a long way. Hey, how you doing? What have you been up to? The happiness standpoint is one thing, but in a business sense, this is important too. The more people you know, the more potential opportunities you have. I've gotten a few jobs via referral with someone I knew, or even clients from people that I went to school with or met here on YouTube. Get to know people because it's really only going to help you. Now we're getting to number 10, and this is a topic that's confused many men for decades. So the thing you should do before 30 is get your reps in with relationships and then take them seriously. Understanding women is a big question that men have been asking for their entire lives, and the only way to gain somewhat of an understanding is to get out there, ask people on dates, and not be afraid of rejection. Dating's really a skill, and it can be used to explore, make mistakes, learn how to communicate, and learn what you like in a partner. And one of my first videos that took off on this channel that I still believe in is that dating's important. You got to get your reps in here. You got to understand what you want in a partner and how to act in a relationship. And especially in your mid to late 20s, start taking it seriously. Don't just date the hot chicks. Like many people, late teens, early 20s, everything's super casual. You just try to find the hottest people you can and it's whatever. But then eventually start dating seriously. Look for your wife. Look for values, how she behaves, that she'd be a good mom to kids and a good person to spend your life with, spend 1,000 dinners with, like stuff like that. Don't look for superficial people. Ideally, your experience in dating will just make this easier over time too. You don't want to be someone who gets to 30 with no dating experience if possible, because that could be a turnoff for a lot of people if you don't have a good reason for what you've been doing all your 20s. So get out there, ask people on dates, fail, and you'll learn from it. The next one is a deeply important one, and that's keep strong connections with your family. By the time you're 30, you're likely on your last grandparents, if you even have them at all anymore. Your parents are aging and life speeds up. You got to call your parents. You got to, ask your grandparents questions about life, because time's a thief, and as much as we don't want to let it win, it always wins in the long run. So before it's too late, get close with your family. You won't regret spending time with them, but you might regret not doing it. Mortality is kind of a bitch. Losing my grandparents changed me. Like now, I view everything as temporary. I try to enjoy time with my family and live in the moment, knowing that, as we grow up, it might be harder to, we'll see them less and less, and nobody's around forever. Plan things with people, communicate with people, because time just moves too damn fast. So the final thing you have to do before turning 30, and the one I'm going to leave us with today, is to seek deep connection to your work, your relationships and family, and your creator. If your life is only about you, it's going to feel empty fast. The people who win long term aren't just chasing money or fame or pleasure. They're like connected. They're connected to their work, their family, their relationships. They're almost connected to something deeper that keeps them going during hard times. Usually it's because they're building something that outlives them. They want to leave a legacy and something that impacts the world in a positive way. Whether that's having a family, starting a business, being a valuable member of your community that can help out a lot, or just having a message that lives after you're gone. Purpose is really the thing that's strong enough to carry you through those dark times. So don't wait until your 30s to figure that out. Start looking now. Find some people in your life to experience it with, help someone who can't repay you, and create something that matters, even if nobody's watching. You never know what's going to happen. So I'll leave you with this. You're not behind, but you will be if you keep waiting. You don't need to have it all figured out by 30. You just need to begin building something real with your body, your finances, your relationships, just your character in general. Your 20s aren't a waiting room where life is just going to happen to you. They're the training ground for the rest of your life. Because by the time you wake up and realize how fast time flies, you'll either be thankful that you started or wishing that you had. So start. Right now, even if it's messy, even if you're late, start becoming the person your future self won't be able to thank you enough for. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
SS Draws says, what advice would you give to someone who is unsure about what to do in life, whether it be career-wise or otherwise? Career-wise or otherwise? That's an intense question, SS Draws. So I'm just going to picture you're sitting in front of me and you're saying, I don't know what I want to do professionally, and I don't even know what I want to do with my life. My first, and if you then ask me for advice, which you're asking me for here now, I would say, I would start asking you questions, asking you to investigate yourself for the things that you like doing, for the things that you can't stop thinking about, for the kind of fiction or nonfiction that you read, the areas of the world that fascinate you or irritate you. Each one of us is sitting here in these, roughly ambulatory engines of our bodies and looking out. And each of us latches onto different stuff about the world that moves us in different ways. And I think that there is value in investigating those parts of your point of view. The point of view that I have on the world, it doesn't feel like it's mine. It feels like it comes out of me and tells me what it is. I'm going to quote George Harrison again from Peter Jackson's incredible 8-hour Beatles documentary, Get Back, where Harrison says, we don't know what the album is going to be yet because it hasn't told us. When it tells us what it wants to be, that's when we'll know the album that we're making. And I believe that really powerfully that my scepter, my British royal scepter fell down yesterday. It's fine. I really fell down right in front of me, and yet it's totally fine. Anyway, the week that I made this, the following week I made a sword. And when I was done with them, I was holding both of these things, and they were both about the same size, about the same weight. They occupied about the same amount of space. And these are very different objects. This is jewels, and well, it grants wishes. Look, see, it lights up. And the sword is like, it's violence. So when I finished these two things, I asked myself, whoa, what is it in me that needed to build both of these objects? And there's I'm still working that one out, but it definitely has to do with ideas about objects and power, and the power that they imply. And a sword implies a very specific, very obvious kind of power. A scepter implies a different, more subtle kind of power. It says, I have the resources to go pull incredibly valuable stuff out of the ground and hold on to and hoard it. And I can use those resources to affect you. So in a way, the sword and the scepter, I submit, I may end up displaying them together in the same box. They're the same object at two different scales. They are symbols of power at two different scales. That's me interrogating my own point of view after the fact. And Tarantino talks about this too. He talks about in the writing process, because people say, how do you layer all that culture into your writing? He's like, that's not how I'm thinking about it. I'm writing the stuff that's got to come out of me, and these characters are saying what they're saying, and I'm servicing this story. And after I make the movie, often is when he says, I realize what I was referring to. He's just pulling the stuff out of his head. So back to SS Draws. What is your point of view on the world is the question. Like, what is the... And again, this is a process to understand, and it will evolve and it will change over time. But right now, it may be that there's some aspect of the world you want to fix. I have several friends who are civil engineers. And it's a very interesting kind of like, I don't know why I thought about this, but like civil engineering is very much a profession that draws people who are like, I want to go do that. I find a very specific kind of directedness among the civil engineers I have met and talked to in the world. And I'm always here for a specific point of view. When it comes from deep inside, it's always going to be interesting. And so SS Draws, I suspect from your username that maybe you hold an implement and you might draw. And so the question I'm going to ask you is, like, you don't have to join your commerce and your art. You don't have to draw for a living, even if you want to draw all the time. You don't have to sell it. That's fine. But if you need to draw, you also need to adjust the commerce in your life around wanting to draw. Again, I'm making assumptions here, but I'm just like, I'm going to make what feels like a reasonable deduction. I have several friends who work bullshit jobs, who work jobs they don't care about and don't talk about, ever. They just pay their bills, and they do several other things that are creative and interesting, and they never talk about their jobs during any of those things. And like, I really appreciate that. So that's totally reasonable and a totally effective way of going through life. But it all begins with, what is the thing that you can't stop thinking about? That's where from an employment standpoint, because you can't stop thinking about it, that's where you're going to do the best work. Because you care about that thing. You don't have to care about something to do good work with it, but it certainly makes it easier. You really don't have to care about something to do good work for it. I mean, that's what being a professional is doing excellent work for the most like ludicrous piece of garbage. So many of the feature films I worked on and commercials were just terrible, absolute dreck. And I did some spectacular work during those. All of that is true. Good luck, SS Draws. Your question has a plaintive quality to it that makes me feel protective of you. And I hope that examining your point of view, and also, you know, talking to friends, talking and getting a perspective from an outside source about your own point of view is also really, really helpful. So if you do something creative, I would advise you to find ways to get other people to see the creative output you're doing and give you feedback about it. Whether that's going into a group show or just asking someone, hey, can I show you stuff I'm working on? And I'm curious of what you think. That can give that perspective from the world about you and your point of view is really, really important and interesting.
Thank you for watching that video. Are you as sick of the tosses to membership as I am? Good, because here's a brand new one that I recorded today, and it's nice and short. There are 3 tiers to Tested membership, and they all offer awesome stuff. Find out about it by clicking the join link below. We'll see you there.
If you don't read books, I get it. I mean, that was me for the majority of my life. I avoided them like they were the plague. And then in my early 20s, I started reading books, and they completely changed my outlook on life. And I want to share some of the books that helped me, and you know, like I've said many times, I am not where I need to be at, but I think if I didn't read these books, I'd be in an even worse spot. So Not expecting this video to get a ton of views or anything, but I do want to share these books because there's so much value there. So let's do it. All right, so book number 1 is by Eckhart Tolle. It's called The Power of Now. And this is one of those books that if they forced us to read in school instead of some bullshit like Of Mice and Men, I seriously think depression and anxiety rates would be so much lower. And I didn't discover it till my early 20s. Like I said, that's when I started reading. But even if you aren't going to read the whole book, just read the first 20 pages because you can find it online. And it's centered around the idea that the only thing that really matters is the present moment, right? So the past has already happened. And the future, your brain is just creating hypotheticals about what could happen. But the only thing that really matters, life really is the present moment, like right now. And in this book, the author says, he's like, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what problems do I have right now in this moment? And your brain will just like automatically go to the future and, you know, maybe something you did in the past, but 99% of the time, the answer will be nothing. Like there's no problem that I am facing right now. And, you know, if there is a problem, in the rare chance that there is actually something in the present that's a problem, you address it. You know, it gets addressed. Like, I think if I hadn't read this book, I would have second-guessed leaving my shit job and just got stuck thinking about, you know, future situations and things that could happen, right? And that would keep me stuck. So this has really changed the way that I think about everything. And it's important to keep in mind, like, 99% of the time, there will be nothing that's a problem in the current moment, which is, like, on its own, so freeing to just understand. So can't recommend this book enough. This one is like number 1 for me. Changed my life. The second one is 48 Laws of Power. And I know this book has kind of a bad rap. It's been labeled like a douchey Chad book, which makes sense because, you know, there's a lot of narcissistic behavior in this book and a lot of taking advantage of and lack of empathy. But it is seriously so important to read this book, you guys, because you can say, you know, I'm above all this, and that's good. You're an empathetic person. So I think most of these laws are pretty manipulative. The truth is, people are using these against you. So even if you're not going to use them, like, you should know what they are because people are going to use them against you. And that was a huge part of why I enjoyed this book so much. I was shocked, like, after I read it, I started to recognize people doing it in real life, and human nature is timeless. So another reason I really like this book is because the author goes through historical examples for each law of power. And these are like Julius Caesar, Napoleon, Bruce Lee. It's sick. As a guy who likes history, it's a big part of the reason why it was so appealing to me, because these are tactics that have been used for thousands of years and people are still using them today, which is interesting, right? Because human nature is like so timeless. And I want to be clear, like, not all the laws are manipulative. Like, there's some really valuable stuff in here that you can start using. And some of my favorites, like, just quickly, Law 4, always say less than necessary. 16, use absence to increase respect. 20, do not, like, fully commit to anyone. So there's some really good stuff in here, and I can't recommend it enough. It's pretty crazy. I could make 1,000 videos on this book alone just because of how much, you know, information and life lessons there are in here. So definitely recommend that. So number 3 is called Shoe Dog, and it's Phil Knight's memoir about creating Nike. So what was sick about this book is how different it was than any other success story, business, entrepreneurial like book that I've ever read. Phil Knight wasn't a genius. He didn't have rich parents. He didn't have connections in the business world. All he had was ambition, and he just refused to not make it work. And I don't want to spoil this book, but this guy fails so many times, it's almost funny. Like, I talk about in my other videos, like rejecting the safe path kind of with taking risks and just 9 to 5, like escaping that. And I think a lot of that comes from this book. I think this book influenced my way of thinking a lot. It's real. Like, there's nothing fake about this guy and all the mistakes that he made. And you just see like someone who just keeps losing and just keeps it just doesn't matter to him. It's like he's going to keep losing until he wins. And I don't want to spoil any more of the book, but you guys know I hate fake shit, fake corporate world, like all the fake, like this is just as authentic and real as it gets. So I definitely recommend reading this book. And these next two books, so these are fiction, and something I learned about fiction, I used to just read nonfiction. The lessons you learn from fiction books sometimes stick with you and really like resonate with you more than nonfiction. So these two books changed the way I think about the system in general, like work, the government, just, we could say like the big man. You know what I mean? So the first one is 1984 by George Orwell. The second one is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I hope that's how you say his name. They're both fiction. They're both old as shit, but managed to age perfectly. Like could not be applied to modern society in a scarier way, how accurate it is. And these books are decades old. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll keep it light, but 1984 takes place in a world that's designed to keep everyone distracted and just obedient and following orders, and you get punished if you step out of this safe path that they want you to be in. And does that sound a little familiar? You know what I'm saying? And Brave New World, similar but different. The population is like created in labs, which is insane, but they're controlled by this drug that provides instant gratification. It's so much pleasure. Everyone's like getting high all the time, basically. It's like the perfect drug. And they're so distracted by pleasure and just, they're just euphoric that they aren't realize, like they can't even realize they're being controlled. It's similar to, you know, like how similar does this sound? There's no individuality because there's instant gratification, and any ambition that was there just gets suppressed. Sounds familiar, right? And this book is so old. This is way before, you know, the internet, way before social media. It's just insane that somebody could hit the nail on the head so long ago. I don't want to give too much information just because it's such a good book, but these two books definitely changed the way that I think about the system in general. And you start to question things, and just the fact that this was predicted, this world that we live in is like literally a dystopia. I swear I could make a bunch of videos on like the lessons I learned from these books and how they apply to the world, but that's, no one's gonna watch that, I get it. But I like I said before, I'm not expecting this video to get a bunch of views. I know if I just talked about, you know, quitting 9 to 5, that seems to get the most views, but these are important to me. Like, these books are very important to me, and I think, you know, if someone can read them, someone listens to this and reads them and gets value out of them the same way I did, then that would be enough for me. And there's just so much value in books that we can't get from the phones, and I think there's like people are really missing out, and they're doom scrolling. It's like, let's start doom reading, because the doom scrolling thing is making us dumb. It's making us zombies. It's like we're being controlled. So I think this is an antidote to all that shit. It's helped me so much, and you know, if you're hesitant to start reading, and a good way to get into it is like starting with audiobooks. I know a lot of people that start with audiobooks because it's similar to like listening to a YouTube video, and it's easier. But it's not easier. It's just a different way to get the information from the book. So that's a good way to start. Me personally, I like to just read, get my eyes on something that's not a screen. But yeah, audiobooks are great, and just find what you like. Everyone likes something different. This is what I like. I hope you guys enjoy. If there's any books that really resonated with you, I'm all ears. I would love to hear below. So let me know. And yeah, that's it for me. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.
In a moment, you're going to read a paragraph as part of an experiment, and whether you understand it or not will depend on something that happens before you read a single word. This experiment was first published in a 1972 paper by Branford and Johnson. It was about reading comprehension and recall. You can check down in the description after the video if you're interested in reading about that. For now, we're going to go ahead and do that experiment together. You don't have to do anything special. What I'm going to do is put a short paragraph up on the screen here in just a second, and when I do, just read along with me. Here we go. The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do. If you have to go somewhere else due to lack of facilities, that is the next step. Otherwise, you are pretty well set. A mistake can be expensive as well. Now, if that paragraph did not make a lot of sense to you, don't worry. It's not supposed to. Now, we're going to go ahead and try this again, but this time, before you read it, I'm going to give you one small piece of information, which is that this paragraph is about doing laundry. Okay? Now, knowing that, let's give it one more try. The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do. If you have to go somewhere else due to lack of facilities, that is the next step. Otherwise, you are pretty well set. A mistake can be expensive as well. Okay, so now that you know that it's about doing laundry, the paragraph should have made a lot more sense. And notice how little information that I gave you. The only thing that I did was clarify the context that you use to interpret the sentences. Now, there's a name for that in reading research. It's called schema activation. Schema, in this sense, refers to the background knowledge that your brain has about the world. What's a restaurant like, for example? Or what's it like to pet a dog or sweep the floor? Or in this case, what's it like to do laundry? This background knowledge serves as a kind of rough model for the way things are supposed to be in a given situation or environment. When you activate schema, you're essentially bringing relevant background knowledge from long-term memory into working memory. So if the text is vague or if there are gaps, then you're easily able to fill in those gaps because everything is being interpreted within that familiar situation or that familiar model. Now, unfortunately, schema activation is kind of a double-edged sword. If the wrong schema is activated, then readers will instead fill in gaps with ideas and expectations that the text never really intended. There's a well-known study by Oded and Stavens. Again, you can check down in the description if you want to read more about it. In this study, they had different groups of students read the same exact text, but for some groups, they gave them comprehension questions that were created specifically to kind of misdirect them, to activate a false schema. And for the groups that were exposed to this false schema, the summaries that they wrote showed that they had misunderstood or at least misinterpreted the author's main ideas. So imagine when you read that paragraph from our experiment a second time, imagine that instead of me telling you that it was about doing laundry, what if I told you that it was about how to clean out the garage? At first, it kind of works. You're arranging things into groups. One pile might not be enough. You're not trying to do too much all at once. But then some of the other details, they seem like kind of a stretch. Now, those inconsistencies aren't going to make us reject the schema outright. Instead, what we're more likely to do is just overlook them because it still mostly makes sense. And therein lies the real danger of activating the wrong schema. A false understanding can take hold in our minds without us even realizing that we got it wrong. So now think about all of the things that you do before you read a book. We get recommendations from BookTube or BookTalk. Maybe we read a synopsis on Goodreads, or we'll at least read the inside jacket or the back cover. Now, in doing all of this, we naturally form expectations about what the book is or what the book isn't, what it's supposed to do for us, or how the story is supposed to work. And most of this is really great. These are the things that you should do, but also think about how some of these things can potentially mislead you. Sometimes there's a lot of unwarranted hype around certain books, for example. Sometimes people will misidentify genres. How many times have I heard someone say that The Road is a post-apocalyptic adventure story? Once in a while, it can even be the marketing of a book. There was an article a while back about a novel called Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. It was printed in this bright, cartoon-like cover, and that packaging kind of gives the impression that it's sweet, or at least that it's low stakes, and maybe kind of typical of what you'd expect of YA. But actually, it contains explicit content and some other adult-oriented themes that you wouldn't expect from the packaging. Now, believe me, I understand the impulse of wanting to just jump in and open up to page 1 and start reading a book, especially if it's a book that you're really excited about reading. But pre-reading is a long-standing, well-studied technique that activates relevant schema before reading. And when it's done carefully, it reduces the risk of misinterpretation and false confidence by aligning expectations with the text. So what I'm proposing here is just a few extra minutes, and it can make a huge difference in comprehension and memory. Now, there are many different types of pre-reading routines, but what I use is very quick, very simple. It's preview, predict, and purpose. So let's talk about preview first. Now, you're probably doing some of these things already. I mentioned some of these earlier, reading the synopsis on the back, for example, or reading reviews online. Some of the things that you can do is read the table of contents, read the chapter headings, look at the diagrams or images if there are any. It's also a good idea to quickly sort of skim over the first few pages, just get a sense of the story, who's in it, what's going on, where are they. Then close the book, look at the cover art. If it's fiction, try to imagine what scenes or characters are being depicted in that artwork. If it's nonfiction, what does the design say about the book? All right, next is predicting. Now this one's simple. Before I start any book, I try to think of at least 1 or 2 predictions based on what I looked at during the previewing process. You know, most of the time I'll just write what I think the book is going to be about, but sometimes I'll also write what I think the tone is going to be. Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be sad? Now, I keep a reading journal, so for me, this is where every entry starts, with my pre-reading routine. But, you know, if you want to, you can just write it down on a piece of scrap paper, maybe use it as a bookmark or whatever. You just want to be able to look at it later and then adjust your expectations if necessary. All right, last is purpose. Now, usually, no matter what the book is about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or whatever, usually the author's primary aim is going to be to educate, to entertain, or to persuade. Now, in practice, most books actually do all 3 to some degree, but one of them is always going to be dominant. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out which one is primary, which one's secondary, and so forth. For example, this book by Steven Pinker, the primary purpose is to educate, but a secondary purpose is to persuade, because he also wants to convince his readers that rationality is a distinct skill set from intelligence or education. And of course, he'll want to do that in an engaging way, so entertaining is part of it too. Now, a lot of fiction falls under entertainment. You know, we often think of fiction as something fun to do or something to help you escape. But when it comes to most of the classics, or especially for more serious works, these broad categories, they kind of fall apart. You know, they're a little too simplistic. So we could say that fiction is entertainment if we simply mean that the author wants to give us a compelling experience. But, you know, I want to be careful here, because I don't necessarily mean entertainment as some kind of idle or pointless amusement. And even with that, there are plenty of exceptions. You know, Orwell's 1984, for example, is more of a warning to readers. It's more, you know, persuasive in that it wants to, you know, change how readers think about power, how readers think about surveillance and ideology. And there are plenty more exceptions where that came from, but I think you get the point. Either way, expectations affect how we read almost immediately. Even small bits of context can turn a vague paragraph into something that feels clear and meaningful, because comprehension comes from words on a page and from the experience and expectations that the reader brings with them.
So this is really disturbing. I was speaking to a client about all the challenges a lot of modern men struggle with, you know, emotional instability, impulse control. You understand the picture. None of that really surprised me, but what really surprised me was when I asked him a very simple, basic question that I think a lot of you guys should ask yourselves is, what is this emotional feeling trying to teach me at this particular moment? And he responded with, I don't think it's trying to teach me anything. And that really, because there's no coincidences in the body, in my personal opinion. There are no random errors. You know, pain and suffering is not meaningless. A good parent doesn't protect a child from every difficulty in life. They allow consequences to do it for them. I mean, think about something very, very basic like hygiene. If a kid doesn't shower for a month, life handles it for you. People avoid him. He gets socially rejected. He feels the pain and then he learns. That doesn't need a lecture. The consequence does the teaching. Well, here's where things really break down. We understand physical hygiene. We understand brushing teeth. We understand exercise. We understand food. But no one taught us what I call internal hygiene. And in the modern world, that omission is absolutely catastrophic because we are living in an environment that is, think about this phrasing, by the way, constantly strengthening our own weaknesses. Social media, adult material, endless stimulation, noise, comparison to your fellow man through IG. These things don't calm you down, they don't relax you, they amplify your emotional instability. So I wanted to tell you what meditation is first, because first, it's not spiritual, it's not self-help, and I don't believe it's optional. Meditation is hygiene, internal hygiene. In the modern world, normal emotional stability requires daily maintenance. And I'm going to say something very, very blunt here. I believe the minimum is 20 minutes a day of unbroken meditation. Every single day, minimum. I compare it, like skipping meditation for me is like skipping a shower. You don't notice immediately, but other people are going to smell you. And eventually so does life. You start... I mean, imagine this. You start saying things like, I heard guys say this, I don't know why I'm anxious all the time. I don't know why I can't sleep. I don't know why my impulses, I'm so compulsive. I don't know why I feel so down and dark and apathetic and shameful. This isn't philosophy. This isn't even my opinion, by the way. There are structural changes in the brain that correlate with emotional regulation, hormonal stability, nervous system equilibrium. The same way your body deteriorates without physical hygiene, your mind will deteriorate without internal hygiene. And that's the most pernicious part of this that is mutilating your mind and your soul, is that it happens quietly. It happens behind the curtains. I mean, here's another good analogy. Imagine someone goes to the gym for the first time, loads up the barbell, and they fail the lift. They get angry and they decide, I'm just not strong enough. The gym isn't for me. It's not who I am. That's an insane statement, but that's exactly how a lot of men treat emotional weakness. They identify the limitation, but instead of training it, they turn it into who they are. I'm just this anxious person. I'm just this depressed person. I'm just wired this way. It's genetic. No. You've identified something in you that is weak. And that's good, by the way. That's information. Happiness, by the way, is a personality trait. It's not a personality trait, pardon me. It's a skill. Emotional stability is a skill, and skills are trained through regression, consistency. I mean, my God, lower the weight on the barbell, reduce the angle, reduce the rep range, reduce the sets, build capacity up. But that requires some discipline. Here's the part that people don't like hearing. If you're anxious, overstimulated, depressed, and restless, good. Good. You are rightly being punished. You're being punished for your incompetence. And it is incompetence, by the way. I'm not being punitive. I'm being objective. The same for the gym analogy. If an individual puts 225 on the barbell and attempts to bench it without prior experience and they injure themselves, I mean, it's ignorance for one thing, but it's also incompetence. If an individual repeatedly allows their attention to be hijacked by threat narratives, self-referential rumination, and unregulated, emotions, that's reactivity. The nervous system's going to respond accordingly. It's not trauma. It's not fate. It's conditioning. And that's the part that makes people uncomfortable. It's not a debate anymore. There's a plethora of objective neuroscience showing that basic attentional training, what is called, what a lot of people call meditation, reduces trait neuroticism, emotional volatility, stress reactivity in a repeatable and measurable way, not spiritually, mechanistically. Again, this is a fact. Meditation has shown to reduce the amygdala activation, that's the threat response, decrease default mode rumination, that internal monologue, increase prefrontal inhibitory control, improve your emotional resilience and recovery. In other words, it directly trains the exact system that neurotic individuals fail to train. If you identify your rear delt is weak, you design an exercise that strengthens the rear delt. When someone refuses to train attention, refuses to regulate emotional reactivity, refuses to interrupt compulsive internal narrative, and then gets anxious and depressed and unstable, it's not cruel. That's not cruel. It's feedback. Biology doesn't negotiate, it adapts. Biology is objective. The barbell is objective. It doesn't care about your opinion. The pain is exposing a weakness, and weaknesses are opportunities to grow. Most of us were never taught this. Our parents taught us good, how to wash, how to eat, how to exercise, hopefully, but they didn't teach us how to sit with silence, how to regulate emotion, how to fast from stimulation. That's not blame. It's reality. You know, the easy part is identifying your own neurosis. Good, well done. But then the responsibility does shift to you, brother. You can keep numbing yourself. You can keep avoiding the silence. You can keep outsourcing regulation, with distraction. Or you can treat your mind like something worth maintaining. Because if you don't, the world is going to keep punishing you until you strengthen a weakness. I mean, if you see the attack on masculinity, if you see the attack on yourself and you don't act, who's on? And I say this with love, brother. Facts, no theories. Speak soon.
Okay, so we're living in a weird and confusing financial moment. We have advances in technology, tariffs, Donald Trump tweeting about tariffs, the Fed cutting rates, rising cost of living, an imbalanced economy, and more. It's easy to get lost in the information and the noise surrounding what we should be doing with our money. Half the people think that the world is ending, sell everything, crypto and gold only. The other half seems optimistic about the future of technology and where we go from here. So if you're in your 20s right now, it's very easy to feel lost when it comes to money in this uncertain world. But there's one word that you probably hear a lot through all the noise: investing. Despite all the noise, the principles remain the same. Investing is possibly the single most important thing you can do, especially if you're young and in your 20s. And time is really the only unfair advantage that normal people get over rich people. So investing equals importante. Don't take it from me. Take it from literally everybody, from politicians, rich people, and more. And also take it from another person named Mathematics. Look at that compound interest. Isn't that beautiful? Today we're going to cover how to invest your money in 2026, not by picking stocks, not by gambling, but by using a simple order of operations that I personally follow to build my net worth to a place where I have more freedom and flexibility than I've ever had in my life. So I want to be clear, I am not a professional financial advisor. These are just my opinions, my experiences, and what I've been doing with my money personally. I'm just some guy on the internet talking about money while playing Call of Duty. I mean, just don't take this that seriously. But I feel comfortable and qualified talking about this because I have built a stock portfolio in my 20s that's valued at several $100,000, and I've also reached coast fire by the time I was in my later 20s. I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't beat the market by an insane amount, maybe just a little bit, since I did have a tech-heavy portfolio. And I also avoided doing dumb stuff for a long time, at least for the most part. I learned about money through a few different ways. I did a fair amount of reading and research on these topics. I watched a lot of finance YouTube videos. I worked for a few big financial firms in America, and I also had some people in my life who taught me the importance of investing. So I'm here to just tell you what I do and what I know, regardless of if it's good information for your situation or not. So please follow everything I say blindly. Okay, wait, no, don't actually do that. Please don't listen to some guy talking about finances while playing Call of Duty. That's probably not going to hold up in court. But you know what I mean. Take everything you hear on the internet with a grain.
Vem är du?
Jag är döden.
Kommer du för att hämta mig?
Jag har redan länge gått vid din sida.
Det vet jag.
Är du beredd?
Min kropp är rädd. Inte jag själv.
One of the greatest films of all time, The Seventh Seal, written and directed by Ingmar Bergman in 1957, tells the story of a medieval knight traveling through a plague-ridden land. He encounters death and, resisting its call, offers to play chess in exchange for more time. Until he doesn't lose, at least he can continue on living. Finally standing face to face with his own mortality, he takes this opportunity to make one final attempt to find an answer to life's greatest question. What is the meaning of it all? And is there a God?
Vad väntar du på?
Jag vill ha vetskap.
Du vill ha garanti.
Kalla det vad du vill.
But of course, the answer that he is looking for has never been found.
Jag vill ha vetskap. Inte tro, inte antaganden, utan vetskap. Jag vill att Gud räcker med sin hand, avtäcker sitt ansikte och talar till mig. Men han tiger. Jag ropar till honom i mörkret. Men ibland är det som det inte fanns någon där. Det kanske inte finns någon där. Men då är levandet en orimlig fasa. Ingen människa kan leva med döden för ögonen och vetskapen om alltings intighet.
The horror that our protagonist is describing is what the philosopher Albert Camus termed the absurd. As Camus put it, man stands face to face with the irrational. He feels within him his longing for happiness and for reason. The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world. In other words, we seek to lead a meaningful life, follow a reasonable path, and yet the world just doesn't turn our way. Our plans get constantly struck down by a life that does not care about our desires. This tension is the absurd. One way to overcome it is accepting religion. The belief that nonetheless all is part of an overarching, meaningful plan, even if we can't fully understand it. To Camus, this means accepting an illusion, and in the film we see the evil that this illusion leads to, like people willing to mutilate their own bodies in repentance, thinking that the plague is a sign of God's wrath, and a town dehumanizing, torturing, and finally executing a young girl, believing that the Black Death stemmed from the devil inside of her.
Vi måste göra oss ett beläte av vår rädsla. Och det belätet ska vi kalla för Gud.
Like our protagonist, a disillusioned knight who has fought in the Crusades, his cynical squire is suspicious of how the priests use society's fears to fuel their own power and influence over it.
Varför håller du på med sådana klotterier?
Jag tänkte man skulle påminna folk om det faktum att de ska dö.
Jag blir inte glada då.
Varför i helvete ska han alltid göra folk glada? Han kan ju skrämma dem lite ibland.
Då blundar de och tittar inte på din tavla.
Du kan tro de tittar. En dödskalle är mycket intressantare än ett naket fruntimmer.
Ja, när du skrämmer dem.
Ja, de tänker de.
De tänker.
Blir de ändå räddare.
Kila galopp i fem på prästerna.
Rather than fall into the arms of the priests, the squire opts to accept the absurdity of life. As a young girl burns on the stake for sins that she couldn't have possibly committed, he asks,
Du svarar inte på min fråga. Vem tar hand om det där barnet? Är det änglarna eller Gud eller Satan eller bara tomheten? Tomheten, herre. Det kan inte vara så. Se på hennes ögon. Hennes stackars medvetande håller på att göra en upptäckt. Tomheten under månen. Nej. Vi står maktlösa med hängande armar. För vi ser det hon ser. Vår skräck och hennes är densamma.
According to Camus, this is the answer, accepting our helplessness and the emptiness of life, but with no despair. Whoever manages to achieve this, he calls the absurd hero. Such a person would stop the never-ending conquest of a supposed capital letter meaning and simply enjoy their life amidst the absurdity. What they would do is freely decide how to lead their life and consequently craft their own little meaning. But given the horrors of life and the supposed meaninglessness of it, how could we not succumb to despair? One answer is to look on life through the lens of humor.
Visa den vägen.
Inte precis.
Vad sa han?
Ingenting just.
Var han stum?
Nej, det kan man inte säga. Jag skulle snarare vilja påstå att han var högeligen vältalig.
Or perhaps we can look at life like an artist and cherish the moments of beauty so that they will encourage us in moments of terror.
Stillheten är skylningen. Skål med smultron. Skål med mjölk. Era ansikten i kvällsljuset. Jag ska försöka komma ihåg vad vi talat om. Och jag ska bära det här minnet mellan mina händer. Lika försiktigt som vore det en skål breddfylld med nymjölkad mjölk.
And all the while do our best to have fun. But what if Camus is wrong and our despair is mistaken? What if nonetheless there is a God or a meaning to be found? According to Søren Kierkegaard, this question is a trap. Reason will never take us to an answer. There's always doubt and the possibility of error. Rather, he advises a leap of faith, a decision that there's a God and we should live in accordance with his plan, or a decision that there's no God and live in accordance with our own plan. On the end of the day, he says, life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Or as Ludwig Wittgenstein, deeply influenced by Kierkegaard's philosophy, would put it, the riddle does not exist. The solution of the problem of life is seen in the vanishing of this problem. Is not this the reason why man, to whom after long doubting the sense of life became clear, could not then say wherein this sense consisted?
När vi möts nästa gång i din och dina följeslagares tid, ute,
Och du uppenbarar dina hemligheter.
Jag bär inte på några hemligheter.
Så du vet ingenting.
Jag är ovetande.
So, when the final hour does strike, there is nothing to be learned, no great revelation, but a simple end to life. Once more, our protagonist turns to despair, but not his choir.
Gud, du som finns någonstans, som måste finnas någonstans. Var förbarmande med oss.
Nej, kunde fått en ört att laxera ut dina evighetsbesvär. Nu tycks det vara för sent. Men känn i alla fall den sista minuten, den oerhörda triumfen att rulla med ögonen och röra på tårna. Tyst, tyst. Jag ska vara tyst, men under protest.
And so it ends with no mystery being solved, for there never was one. To end on another quote by Kierkegaard, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. We can only tread blindly. We don't know where we're going and why, but while we're on the way there, we better make the best out of our journey. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, consider subscribing for similar content in the future, and that does help me a lot in making future videos. If you have Letterboxd, also feel free to follow my shorter reviews over there. I wish you all a nice day.
Hello everyone, we are in Georgia, Borjomi, and
Well, everybody, it's Groundhog's Day again for David Goggins. If you pan it down here, you see it's about 3 o'clock in the morning.
3:30 in the morning.
And there's not a car or a person in sight.
Everybody's asleep, man, or just getting home after a long night.
I get my strength. I get it from every exit built aside this morning.
Every time we go to the gym, is it not?
There's not a car, there's not a person.
Being average,
And they're at sleep,
being mediocre, is just sickening to you. It's just sickening. It makes you want to throw up.
He was a U.S. Army Ranger, a fitness icon, and a man who inspired millions with his identity and drive. But at just 37 years old, Greg Plitt's life ended in a way no one could ever have imagined. This is the story of how one of the most unstoppable men in fitness was stopped forever.
Rising reality star's tragic accident has left family and fans reeling tonight. A vibrant fitness expert known for living life to the fullest, killed by an
Greg first discovered fitness in high school as a wrestler, but he soon turned to his older sister for inspiration as she had joined the U.S. Naval Academy. Seeing the transformations in her, both physical and mental, inspired Greg to consider following a similar path. With a 4.0 GPA and a strong wrestling background, Greg initially aimed for the Naval Academy, hoping to achieve something great just like his sister. After a rigorous selection process and a congressional appointment, another opportunity arose. West Point, the U.S. Military Academy, recognized his full potential. Initially, Greg considered staying close to home and pursuing the Navy, which would keep him near his family. But questioning his own motives, he admitted, "I started to think that the only reason I was ruling out West Point was that I was scared. Scared to be on my own, far from home." Realizing that fear shouldn't dictate his future, Greg chose a path that would push him to his limits. Without knowing, West Point changed the course of his life and shaped the man we know today. After a successful time at West Point, Greg graduated as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army Infantry. He served 5 years overseas and 1 year domestically, retiring as an Army captain and an airborne ranger. He often said that his military experience would stay close to his heart. It was as rewarding as it was demanding. After the Army, Greg dove into acting and modeling. A friend in New York asked him to help rehearse her lines, sparking his interest in acting. Through practice and persistence, Greg landed his first acting role in the TV series Work Out. Soon after, opportunities poured in. Magazines, modeling agencies, film crews, and supplement companies all wanted Greg. He starred in movies such as The Good Shepherd and Terminator Salvation,
and modeled for top fashion brands such as Thierry Mugler. He worked around the clock on product launches, fashion campaigns, and personal projects. Through the relentless effort, Greg built a household name for himself with his own product lines, cookbooks, video tutorials, and training plans. There is no sign of him slowing down. What set Greg apart from other actors and fitness influencers were the videos that he created for his fans.
What I feel right now, as bad as it feels, is a fucking hell of a lot better feeling than a life where you throw the towel in. That's something you never recover from. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake up stronger. I'll feel alive. And I'll have...
His work ethic showed that excellence required sacrifice. No rest days, no easy days. It was all or nothing. With a military-trained mindset, discipline was the backbone of every workout and project. He inspired young men to rise, push, and transform themselves. You must train insane or remain the same.
I'm talking about right now. The small steps in between the big successes that everyone sees. No one sees this. Right now, I'm saying that's confidence.
Tonight, the death of a reality star, putting a spotlight on a growing danger in America. Greg Plitt, a rising star on Bravo, killed on the train tracks. And questions now about why he was there and why we are seeing so many more of these deadly accidents.
The man who seemed unstoppable was stopped in his tracks. On January 17th, 2015, in California, Greg was filming a new product launch on the side of a train track. Misjudging the distance and timing of an oncoming train, he was tragically struck. Greg was a calculated, hardworking, military-trained man who approached everything with care. But on that day, one small miscalculation proved that even the seemingly flawless man is human. Greg Plitt's life was a testament to discipline, courage, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. From the halls of West Point to the battlefields overseas, and from the gym to the silver screen, he showed the world what it meant to push beyond limits. His death was tragic, sudden, and shocking. A reminder that even the strongest among us are human. But his legacy is not measured how he died. It is measured how he lived. The millions he inspired to rise early, train harder, and to chase their dreams without excuses. Greg Plitt may have been stopped in his tracks, but his message still lives on.
But you've never wanted to unwrap it because there's too much fucking pain and commitment. You were scared you were going to fail. You were scared if you started, you never finish it. You didn't want to tell anyone about it. You knew it was there, but you never wanted to embark on it. Until something fucking hits. You get fired or somebody else gets success, remind you of what you could have been. And then the fucking spark is born. And no matter what happens, I'm never going to be in this boat again. And you get up and you go, even if it gets knocked down, you just keep going, you're a wild man. And life has never been so sweet. That can happen at an early age, it can happen at a later age. It's going to happen to somebody no matter what, it's going to happen to you. And when it does happen to you, thank your lucky stars that finally you're alive. It's time to unwrap the potential you can be. Superior, man. It's within you. It's within every single one of us. And the people that have risen to that level were no different than any one of us. It's just they believed it and they're willing to work their fucking ass off to get it.
In a moment, you're...
This video is sponsored by Recall. There are masses of content out there. Videos, articles, podcasts, papers, and we just don't have time to slowly figure out if they're worth our attention. That's where Recall comes in. Think of it as a tool for thinking, to help you build a personal base of knowledge from everything you consume. Recall comes with a browser extension that gives you a one-click summary, providing a flavor of what's inside any article or video. And mind you, this isn't a substitute, but a preview, somewhat like an abstract. Is this worth a deeper look? Is this worth my time? And you can even jump straight into sections that seem interesting or are most relevant to you. Or you can talk directly to the content. With the mobile app, you can just share content directly to Recall and get that preview before you commit to this 2-hour podcast, for example. When you save content to Recall, it uses smart tags to automatically map relationships between ideas. So you're not merely storing information, but building a network of how concepts connect across everything you've learned. And when you need to revise an idea or dive into the source for a deeper look, You can ask the chat to directly query any specific tag or piece of content to give you a more tailored response. For example, you can say, using my saved productivity content and my saved productivity journals, make me a productivity protocol for 2026, and it will do it. And like the other note-taking apps you love, you can add your own notes and, of course, edit existing insights if you want to tackle the ideas more directly. Recall just launched GraphView 2.0, a visual map of how your knowledge connects. Now, while you can manually link ideas when you want that intentionality, the network also grows automatically, surfacing connections that you might have missed and discovering hidden connections without necessarily investing hours. To try it for yourself, go to www.getrecall.ai, also linked in the description. And if you want to unlock its full potential, you can use code Odysseus25 to get 25% off of a premium subscription. And that will be valid until the 1st of February, so have fun exploring, and thank you to Recall. The digital revolution gave us the internet, infinite entertainment, and now the power to outsource thinking itself. These are gifts. But like Pandora opening her box, they revealed 100 curses, and we became fat and bloated, both physically and mentally. In our binge, we surrendered both our critical thinking and our mental health to all of these pasty losers in Silicon Valley. And it got so bad that beyond the crippled attention spans, our mind is literally rotting away. It's eroding. And this is my confession, because sometimes I feel so just lobotomized, like nothing is going on upstairs. My mind's foggy, I feel dull, and it's painful. That's part of the reason why I like to read and learn. I fear being dumb and ignorant, and I'm not saying that out of self-pity, it's just true. I don't want to be like that. To reclaim control of your mind, you have to first create an environment where thought and reflection can happen, so you can stay curious and, be content, be happy. And this can't happen when your attention is being stolen every 10 seconds by some buzz or flash or icon. And then we get the usual cope, which I'm guilty of. Oh, but I need my phone and my laptop. It's where I do everything. It's where I do my work. It's where I read. It's where I get entertainment. And that's exactly the problem. All of this stuff here is great, but we've made it the center of our life, and that is actually a choice that we didn't have to make. We don't have to work and play and read and eat at our desk, and we don't have to be our phone's bitch either. That's all a choice. And these are where analog tools come in. And you've seen the trends. People use these to replace their phone, or at least diminish it, to give you the space to read and to think and to be creative again. This is a list of my favorites, and this has been done before, so I tried my best to put in some unique ones in there so you don't see just the same stuff over and over. First is one of my New Year's resolutions, and it's to spend more time reading newspapers. And it's such a boomer thing to say. It's like, you darn kids don't read the newspaper anymore. But maybe they're onto something, because it ties into that whole idea of making your doom scrolling analog. The idea is that instead of grabbing your phone to take a dookie or watching YouTube while you eat lunch, you instead read something light but informative, like a newspaper or magazine. I buy a copy of the Financial Times every now and then. Not that often, because they're fucking expensive now. But, I keep up to date with what's going on. I read the political analysis of these smart people, and I don't feel completely retarded by the end of it, like if I were to use my phone. The paper is calming, it's respectable, and let's be honest, it just bleeds aura. Especially those big fucking broadsheet ones that are, they're a pain in the arse to read, but they just have that style to them, don't they? Next up is a dedicated camera or camcorder. And before we continue, well, actually, that's not analog at all. That's digital. And it's like, we know. I know. You know as well. But it's the same outcome. It's the same benefit. It gets the same philosophy across. So don't give me that. Okay? Anyway, back to the camcorder. I bought this one a while back. And what I do is every time I travel with friends to another country, I bring it along, I film some clips, and then I stitch them all together in this edit or compilation. And it's just really like a memento of that country, to capture all the funny moments, all of the nights out, the unfiltered white boy shenanigans that they hate to see. Now, why do this? Why not just use our phone? Well, you can, but remember, we're trying to use it less. And when you use a film camera or a Polaroid or a camcorder or just any dedicated camera, you have to look for compositions. You have to, again, be intentional. It's so much more sentimental than a photo on your phone. I guess it's because it's physical, because it was captured with intent, but it just feels more precious and more cozy in a way, more nostalgic. Now, this camcorder I bought off Amazon for like 50 quid. I'll link it down below if you're interested. And I bought it knowing it would be shit, because it is. It's cheap, the audio sucks, the film sucks, but it just has charm. Something about it being bad gives it extra charm, an extra, I guess, nostalgia factor. Now we arrive at the king of this list, the pen and the notebook. And this really is everything. This is how we think. This is how we reflect. It's how we understand who we are and what we believe in. It's how we take all of the scattered thoughts in our head and give them clarity and order on the paper. Now, typing is okay, it gets the job done, but it just doesn't hit the same as ink on paper, which is slower, it's more thoughtful. And there is actually evidence to show that it's better for your retention and your learning. And it's even just more fun, let's be honest. Now, there's a million things you can use notebooks for, but personally, I like to do two main things. I like to write my first drafts in them. So if I'm doing a newsletter or a video script, I like to start them on paper to sort of make me think a bit more. And I also like to take notes on videos or podcasts or articles that I consume. Yes, it's slower. I could just type them up. I could copy and paste a few things, I guess. But I don't want to do that. I want to take the time to process them, to understand them, to make it slower and more intentional on purpose. Now, because of the fluidity and the freedom of a pen, I can make diagrams. I can do mind maps. I can draw arrows. I can do all these bullshit doodles. That becomes possible. And I can give this spatial dimension to my notes, which is just not as possible in
They follow the rules for what?
or Notion, which is they're more rigid.
They're letting fear lead them.
And of course, that's just me.
What happens if I don't?
Use your notebooks for journaling, for
Life's simple.
brain dumps, for morning pages.
You make choices and we don't look back.
All of these things, which are just great in their own way. Pair that with a nice pen, like Parker, for example, and you've got yourself a ritual, like this romantic, ritualized process of learning and discovery, and it's just fantastic. It really is. It should be part of everyone's arsenal. When I go to the gym, I am tempted to pull out my phone in between sets and just scroll and do bullshit. And it's like, what are you playing at, bro? Focus on lifting, you pig. You fat, porky pig. And then I start coping and I say, oh, well, but I would leave my phone at home. I'd leave it in my pocket, but I need it for my stopwatch. I need it to time my sets because I do that. I'm precise with them. And, fair enough. We need to have our phone for our workout plan. I understand. But the stopwatch cope doesn't work anymore because I have a Casio. I can just bring my watch. So instead of relying on my phone as much, I just use the stopwatch on my Casio. And I like this because the gym is one of those rare times where you're actually free to just think and to be alone with your thoughts. And that's good for your creativity. It's good for understanding who you are. It's good for, inspiration and getting new ideas. Just letting your mind wander a bit and drift off. We're so used to just always having an input. We're always listening to something or reading something or scrolling or having music blaring. And it's just like, shut up. There's cacophony. Give me a break, man. I want some time where I can just be silent and think to myself and not have this constant, can't say that on YouTube. And in general, watches are just beautiful. I love the craftsmanship and the heritage and the story behind them. And listen, this is my only watch. I'm very much a beginner. I'm looking to, explore the world a bit more, upgrade a bit. But they really are just a story on your wrist, and I love them for that. Next up is an alarm clock, because it's dangerous to wake up with your phone. You reach over to grab it and turn off the alarm, and then you're tempted to start scrolling, and then you do for 10, 20, 30 minutes. And if you combine that with a bad night's sleep or not enough sleep, you just feel like you have a lobotomy and you wake up and kill everyone. You're pissed off, you're tired, and it's just not a great way to start the day, is it? So instead, you get a dedicated alarm clock, literally anything. You keep your phone away, upstairs, downstairs, in your cupboard, who cares? Then you wake up and there's no phone to touch. You get out, you see some sunshine, you look out the window, there's fresh air, and you just get on with your day. And there's no phone for you to get distracted by or to start scrolling on. And it's such a simple change, but it makes a world of a difference in the morning. Coming up is a bit of a wild card, so you're going to have to hear me out here. And it represents more a philosophy rather than a specific item. But the item in question is the humble shoe shining kit. Because in 2026, I guess one of my resolutions is to buy less and buy with more quality. Now, I'm pretty good at that already, but part of it includes maintaining what you already have. And that's what I need to improve on. Because I'm sick of this. I'm sick of cheap Chinese bullshit. I'm sick of these flimsy things that are designed just to end up in a landfill a few days later. They're designed to break, designed to cause clutter, to, fill up your field of view. It pisses me off. I'm sick of it. If we want to return to the society of the craftsman, the artisan, the local maker, then we have to be willing to pay the price for it. Literally, we have to be willing to pay more sometimes, and we have to make sure that these goods can live out their whole life as it was intended. And that is maintenance. We need to maintain things. That's what this shoe shine and brush represent. It's a symbol of love and care and looking after the things we already have. And with it includes the whetstone that we sharpen our knives with, or the hangers that we hang our jackets upon, or the tools that we look after our car with. All of these little things, these little acts of care and maintenance. It's a bit of a stretch even for this video, but I think it represents that spirit of the analog, of slowing down, of returning to the real world, of looking after the physical. And really, this is another boomer entry on the list. So shine your shoes, boy. Real man shines his shoes. By the way, I'm not even good at it. I'm quite new to this, so please don't judge the B-roll. And, you know, I'll appreciate constructive criticism, but that's it. Finally, and I'm not sponsored by them, but I really like this app called Minimalist Phone. And again, I know it's technically not analog, but it captures the same philosophy. And if you have a problem, Reddit's down the hall to the left, okay? What this app does is it makes your phone interface incredibly boring and minimalistic. Because we know that these social media giants, they use flashy colors and notifications to pull you in and to keep you watching. It's good for advertisers, right? And what this does is it makes your interface dull. So you're not as attracted to it. You're not as tempted to pick it up and see a flashing color and go, It's just a black and white list. And even better, it actually blocks notifications from coming in. So you're not, constantly harassed, someone calling in your name, beckoning you to come in. And finally, it has these app timers. So if you click on, say, Instagram, you can pick 1, 5, 10, 15, and that's how many minutes it allows you to scroll for until it kicks you out. And there's my list. I hope you liked it. I think it was pretty unique. But as always, I want to hear your recommendations. Like, did I miss anything? What do you personally use? It really helps not just me, but everyone else watching. And I'm so grateful for that. And if you're interested in more, I'll recommend a video on deep focus here on screen. And of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm grateful.
This is a 30-minute shadow boxing workout that you don't need any equipment for or any boxing experience either. You just find a little bit of space in your area and I will guide you through this. And this is the program that we're going to be doing right here. We're going to be doing 8 3-minute rounds. Round number 1 is going to be the warm-up round. And then the next 6 rounds is going to be all shadow boxing with me coaching you through it, giving you tips and techniques.
Okay, so in 2026, I am setting a simple but slightly unhinged goal to become ridiculously educated all on my own. I have a ton of stuff I want to learn, like political science, economics, and philosophy, on top of finishing the courses I started this year, like world history.
Hello, my fools.
I'm Mr. Beast, and this is the Wired Autocomplete interview. Let's see what weird things you guys Google about me. Whew, I actually don't Google myself much, so I have no idea what's about to pop up. Okay, board number 1. Why is Mr. Beast named Mr. Beast? I wish I had a better story to tell you guys, but when I started an Xbox Live account many years ago when I was a little kid, it autofilled the name as Mr. Beast 6000. Eventually I dropped the 6000 and that's how I got Mr. Beast. What is Mr. Beast logo supposed to be? I don't really know. I guess it's kind of like a tiger. I'll be honest. I mean, even though that logo's probably been seen 100 billion times, I actually put very little thought into it. When I was a little kid, I just kind of designed a tiger and here we are. My name, my logo, probably should have had more thought behind it. I'll admit it. Why does Mr. Beast change his thumbnails? That's a good question. So what they're referring to is sometimes we'll upload a video with the thumbnail and then if you check the video a month later, it'll have a different thumbnail. The answer is, I just never know how to thumbnail our videos because sometimes we'll do something crazy like world's fastest man versus a cheetah. How do you show that in a thumbnail? Because there's like 100 different ways you can make a thumbnail of a man running against a cheetah. You could do like a side profile shot, you could do a frontal shot. And so a lot of it is me just like second guessing myself and be like, I don't know if this thumbnail is the best, or maybe we change this angle. And my thumbnail team probably hates me because I just like change my mind all the time and constantly change the thumbnails. Thumbnails are important, but what is ultimately most important is that you just make great content. How does Mr. Beast get his contestants?
Right. And these are the conscience can't stay quiet, and it's time to expose the toxin called Bacillus cereus and other carcinogenic ones, which cause digestive discomfort.
All right.
Hey, I said it last time I was on it. He's the best football player in the world.
First video. Well, if you go to my channel, you can set it to oldest, and you will see that my first video is actually, I recreated Saw in Minecraft. I was a little kid. with a hand-me-down laptop from my brother that I kind of like stole. I load up Minecraft and I'm just building like, I built this big box and then I put like some little like pigs from there in there and then put like mini weird saw traps. And I was just like, look at this funny weird thing I made. And it was, yeah, no one watched it or cared. The thing is, if you watch a piece of content you made 6 months ago and you don't see a lot of things that could be improved, then you're probably not constantly improving and evolving. And so for me, there is no such thing as a perfect video. Things can always be better. The pacing or the editing or, you know, even the coloring, the lighting, there is no perfect piece of content. And so I think until the day I will always look at whatever I filmed 6 months prior and, you know, see the flaws and think it could be improved. Does MrBeast respond to DMs? I'll just be blunt. I probably get over 100,000 DMs a day. So I do respond to maybe a couple here and there a month. But if you DM me, the odds of me replying to you are probably lower than a shark falling from space and eating you. So maybe just don't waste your time. MrBeast off camera. That's me right here. It's actually partially why I'm excited to do this. My videos have gotten so big and sometimes they revolve around the contestants and not me. And a lot of people feel like they don't know me anymore or really get to hear me talk. And it was pretty eye-opening. I uploaded a video on my second channel where I reacted to a video called Hide Me in 10 Years. And it was just me talking. And like the top comment on my video was like, wow, it's very refreshing to see Jimmy just being himself. They had like 30,000 upvotes. And I was like, dang, I should do more. Like right now, me and do with his money. Depends on the week. One week we're burying me alive for a video. The next week we are, building 100 wells in Africa. Jokes aside, I spend most of my money on our YouTube content. Could be literally anything. If you scroll through my channel, it's a bunch of random stuff. So outside of content though, I have a couple cats, a couple dogs, I have a fiance. For the most part, I reinvest all my money into content and I, don't really do much besides film. What is MrBeast's most expensive? Don't really do much besides film. What is MrBeast? My money into content and I, don't really do much besides film. What is MrBeast's most expensive video? Back in the day, it used to be when we recreated Squid Games. I spent $4 million on that, and that was like crazy at the time. But I mean, we've had quite a few videos since then where we spent more than $4 million. It's hard because I don't really track or care that much about the money spent. It's more about the story. What do people feel? And it's not really about the money anymore. But I will say the most just period expensive thing I did was Beast Games, which was our Prime Video show. I mean, in season 1, I spent over like $20 million just building a city in the show. So for the contestants to live in. So that thing, we got a little carried away. What is MrBeast's most popular video? Well, as of right now, my most viewed video is when I recreated Squid Games in real life. I used to, when I was younger, focus a lot on views and how many views does a video get. But the wave I've been on more recently is just obviously how does the video make people feel? Because there's a big difference between 100 million people watching a video, right? Our average video does 200 million views. There's a big difference between 200 million people watching a video and be like, yeah, that's cool, versus 200 million people watching a video and loving it and be like, wow, that was really awesome and like really enjoying the experience. And so I try to measure it more on, quality views as opposed to just views. What is MrBeast doing next? I am actually dropping season 2 of Beast Games, our biggest competition show ever in the history of anything. We have 100 of the strongest people in the world compete against 100 of the smartest people in the world. Biggest sets in history, just a whole large, massive undertaking. And Twitch Island. At first, million subscribers do is try to sell it.
I was offered $5,000 for a video, but this was when I was like 19. I was like, double it, and I'll walk outside and I'll give it to a homeless person. And they're like, no, you won't. That's
2025 is basically over now. Probably when you're watching this video, I'm sure it should be either the 1st of January or the 31st of December. But nonetheless, I feel as if basically all of us, when our year is over, we set our goals on the 1st of January, some of us a little bit later. And we all set ourselves goals that we all want to achieve, whether it's a certain physique we may want to achieve, whether it's a career path, whether it is getting into a certain university, whether it's starting a business and earning a certain amount of money. Nonetheless, I truly feel as if sometimes we give ourselves goals at the start of every single year, and after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we completely forget about them. We put goals at the start of the year and we're there thinking about how we're going to achieve them in 365 days, but at the end of the day, we really don't. But that's really because we try and do stuff alone, isn't it? I know it from myself because for years now, I've been trying to do anything to try and find any level of potential success, whether it's on social media or any other type of business model, but to no avail except this YouTube channel, which seems to have been going kind of well, alhamdulillah, of course. But the most interesting part is that when you try and do stuff on your own, when you try and figure things out by yourself, without having someone to help you, a group of people, or a group of friends to do stuff together, it becomes very difficult and sometimes even lonely. And then what happens is that you forget about your goals because you start to not really act upon them. You start wasting a little bit of your time because the more time goes, the more you don't see these goals actually happening in your life. Because here's the problem. We set them at the start of the year and we expect them to happen in like a month's time. But that's absolutely not the reason. That's why we call them yearly goals, because we know it takes a long time, except we expect them to come true in like a month or 2 weeks. And when they don't, we just give up on them. So every year we just do a vision board or we write down our goals and we plaster them on our wall and that's it. But we don't really do much of them. Rarely have I seen someone who sets goals for the year and actually achieves them. And why am I mentioning all of this? For those who have been following me for now, let's say, quite some time, you all know about Jannah's Path, which, the big announcement, would you believe, it's completely free now. So if you want to join Jannah's Path, it's absolutely free. But for most of you who I'm guessing are Muslim because you're watching this channel, you might want to set yourself some goals, you might want to achieve certain things in life. I don't know exactly how that feels when you're trying to do stuff alone and when you can easily be distracted by simply your phone, just like you are with this video. I'm guessing you clicked on it because you either liked the background or maybe the title was interesting to you. And here's the thing. My advice, and it's what I'm trying to do, if this 2026, once it comes, is not do things alone and actually do something that can allow me to achieve the goals that I will be setting for myself, inshallah, but without in like 2 weeks' time or in a month's time, give up on them simply because I don't see them happening in my life. So that's why I basically have been working on this thing for months now, and it's called Jannah's Garden. And for those who know me, it's this community where we're going to have programs, inshallah. But what we're going to do is we're going to build a community of brothers and sisters who, inshallah, will be working together on trying to keep our screen time below a certain level. Or simply, we want to start using our phones in a productive, meaningful way. Not just use your phones to scroll on TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever it may be all day and don't get anything done. Ramadan is in 2 months' time. Are you going to be fasting and spending your whole day on your phone? Or are you trying to get stuff done in this blessed month? That's why I'm creating Jannah's Garden, because I myself am so fed up with having to give myself goals and not really stick to them because there's nobody around me to help me. But inshallah, with Jannah's Garden is exactly what I want to do. And you guys can literally join from today. You guys can join and the link, of course, is below. And I really recommend you joining, especially if you're someone who had, and especially if you know that you want to.
What is
With YouTube Premium, you can watch ad-free, offline, and in the back.
I understand why I did it. But do you understand why I had to kill him? I, Eddard, of the House Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, sentence you to die. The man who passes the sentence is going to swap.
You, my next last bastard, aren't you? Let me give you some advice, bastard. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Act like armor. Never use a head. You spend too much time worrying about what other people think of you. When you hear them whispering Kingslayer behind your back, doesn't it bother you? Mine doesn't concern himself with your members of a shit. No! You can't! Clown for king.
Things I do for love. But even if the boy lives, he'll be a cripple, grotesque. He'd make good, clean death any day.
I have to disagree. Death is so final, yes. Life is full of possibilities.
You think my life is some precious thing to me? I grew up with soldiers. I learned how to die a long time ago.
You pray to the gods?
No, I'm
There is only one God, and his name is death. There is only one thing we say to death.
Not today.
With YouTube. With YouTube Music Premium, there's more to love.
With YouTube Premium, watch ad-free videos and listen ad-free on the YouTube Music app. One subscription, 2 apps.
Teammates ever tease you?
All the time.
What do they say?
All the time. So you still living with your mama, you're a mama's boy, and you know this, that, and the other. I'm saying, oh, that's cool. I don't care.
No time for girlfriends?
You know, no time because I'm so busy running around playing basketball.
You have that hunger to win?
I want to be the best player that I can become, and I would do anything to accomplish that.
What do you mean you'll do anything?
Like, I'll go out and I'll play basketball from 6 a.m. till 12. There were times growing up where I was exhausted at times, but I would push myself.
To be the best.
To be the best. Yeah.
Do you ever get distracted? Would you get distracted if you saw Rihanna and Cara sitting courtside?
I gotta be honest, you know. I gotta be honest. Out and I'll play basketball from 6 a.m. till 12. There were times growing up where I was exhausted at times, but I would push myself.
To be the best.
To be the best. Yeah.
Do you ever get distracted? Would you get distracted if you saw Rihanna and Cara sitting courtside?
I gotta be honest, you know. I gotta be honest. Listen, man. When I'm playing, I'm about my business.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm about my business.
You don't even notice anyone when even when Jack Nicholson sat there.
The only thing I notice before every game is I look up at them championship banners and think about that goal. So if you get up at 10 in the morning train at 11, right? 12, say 12. Train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8, right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it again, right? Those are 2 sessions, right? Now imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4. You go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, so blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11, right? Relax, and now you're back at it again, 2 to 4, and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? So now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in summer, they're never going to catch up.